Hi, and welcome to That's Ruddy Mysterious, a podcast of short tales about true mysteries. What happened to the Flannan Isles Lightkeepers? Who was responsible for the Gardner Museum heist? I'm not going to solve those mysteries, but they'll be interesting to learn about. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. Transcripts for all episodes can be found at that'sruddymysterious.wordpress.com. No apostrophe and no exclamation point. Today's tale is about the Amber Room. The Amber Room was built in Prussia in 1701 and given to Russia in 1716. There it resided until the Second World War, at which time the Nazis moved in and pilfered many works of art, including the Amber Room. That's when it disappeared. The Amber Room is one of the many structures or landmarks given the title the Eighth Wonder of the World due to its magnificence. This is a title given to something that people believe is comparable to the Seven Wonders of the World. There are even two people that have received the honored designation. The first was Andre the Giant, a wrestler, and the second was Aishwarya Rai, an actress. Amber is fossilized tree resin. Trees secrete resin to protect them against insects. Over the course of a millennia, huge amounts of trees, along with their resin, washed down into the Baltic Sea. The trees got buried in the sea before the resin could dry, and the resin then hardened into amber. Over time, little pieces of amber have floated up into the sea and washed ashore. Baltic amber is unique due to its high levels of succinic acid. This allows the amber to be polished, clarified, molded, and shaped. Baltic amber was considered so opulent that it was used in Tutankhamun's tomb. Construction of the Amber Room began in 1701 in Prussia. It was made of 6 tons of Baltic Sea amber and decorated with mirrors and mosaics constructed of amber. The amber was mounted on panels with gold leaf backing. The Amber Room was designed by Andreas Schluter, a German Baroque sculptor, for Sophie Charlotte, King Frederick William I's second wife. Andreas found chests of amber in the royal palace's basement. It was the largest collection of amber he'd ever seen, and he decided to use it in his room. The room was constructed by Danish amber craftsman Gottfried Wolfram. The room was initially installed in Prussia in the Charlottenburg Palace as a way to celebrate peace between the two nations, as well as an alliance against Sweden. King Frederick I, the King of Prussia, gave the room to Peter the Great of Russia in 1716. The room was shipped to Russia in 18 boxes and stored for almost 20 years before being installed into the Winter House in St. Petersburg. In 1755, Tsarina Elizabeth ordered the room be moved to Catherine Palace in Pushkin. This was also known as the Tsar Village. Andreas Schluter originally designed the room to be about 172 square feet or 16 square meters big. When it was moved to Catherine Palace, however, it was going into a space that was much larger. Several designers had to redesign the room to fit into the larger space. They used amber shipped from Berlin to complete the larger room. Architect Francisco Bartolomeo Rastrelli was called in to make the room bigger so that it fit into Catherine Palace. He added more candelabras, amber mosaics, and gold-gilded figures. The work was completed in 1770, and in the end the room was about 180 square feet, or 55 square meters big. The completed room was comprised of 6 tons of amber as well as other precious stones that made up the 129 mosaics in the room. It is estimated that today the room would be worth about $142 million. Tsarina Elizabeth used the room as a private meditation room. Catherine the Great used it as a gathering room, and Alexander II used the room as a trophy room. When World War II broke out, the Germans wanted Soviet treasures. Knowing that the Germans were coming, officials and curators tried to hide the room. When the officials and curators attempted to remove the panels began crumbling, so the officials and curators hatched a plan to hide the panels behind wallpaper. The plan failed. On June 22, 1941, the Nazis performed Operation Barbarossa. 3 million German soldiers moved into the Soviet Union and looted many artworks and treasures, including the Amber Room. The German soldiers took 36 hours to disassemble the room. They packed the whole room into 27 crates and shipped it to Königsberg, Germany, which is modern-day Kaliningrad. Königsberg was used as a transfer base for stolen cultural objects. The objects were stored here before being transported to other parts of Germany. The Amber Room, however, stayed in Königsberg and was installed in Königsberg's Castle Museum, where it was the most popular exhibit. The Amber Room remained on display in Königsberg's Castle Museum for 2 years. Alfred Rode was the museum director and an amber aficionado. In 1943, Rode dismantled the room and crated it, this time in 24 crates. He had the crates put into the courtyard of the Castle Museum, and that's when they simply disappeared. In August of 1944, Allied bombers destroyed the city of Königsberg. Some think the room must have been destroyed at this time, but Rode's notes suggest otherwise. His notes show that the room survived the bombing. In 1945, however, Russia's Red Army seized the city and found no sign of the room. The KGB interrogated Rode and his wife. One morning, the couple just didn't show up for their interrogation. It was discovered that they had died overnight of typhus. Strangely, though, their bodies had disappeared, as did the doctor who signed their death certificates. Some believe that there's a curse associated with the Amber Room. Many people who have searched for the room have met untimely deaths. For example, Rode and his wife simply died of typhus while the KGB was investigating. General Gusev, a Russian intelligence officer, died in a car crash shortly after discussing the room with a journalist. George Stein was searching for the room when he was murdered in Bavaria. People have been desperately searching for the Amber Room ever since it went missing. In 1997, German art detectives received a tip that someone was trying to sell off pieces of the room. German officials raided the office of the lawyer who was representing the sellers and found a mosaic that they believe came from the original Amber Room. The seller was the son of a dead German soldier, and he didn't know the history of the mosaic. Some believe that this was not part of the real room. They believe that Stalin made a fake room, which is what the Germans took, and that the mosaic comes from this fake room. Some believe that the room was destroyed by fire. Although there are no traces of burnt amber, there are burnt remains of some of the mosaics. In the 2000s, a team found stolen art in the basement of a castle in Kaliningrad. There was no trace of the Amber Room, however. In 1968, the Soviets ordered that Königsberg Castle should be destroyed. This prevented any further research into what may have happened after the 1944 bombing. In 1997, Russia was considering giving the Germans back the artwork that they seized during the Second World War. Seemingly in return, two things appeared at this time: a stone mosaic and a wooden chest of drawers believed to have been made from pieces of the Amber Room. In 2003, Russia began work on a replica of the Amber Room located in Catherine Palace. It cost $11 million to build, and it currently remains on display. In April of 2016, a Polish historian used ground-penetrating radar roughly 60 miles away from Kaliningrad in a well-preserved Nazi bunker in Poland. He claims to have found the Amber Room, although there isn't much evidence of this. In 2021, a secret network of underground tunnels was found. Some believe the Amber Room and other lost World War II treasures may be in those tunnels. Around the same time, a group of divers found a shipwreck that they believe may have been carrying the Amber Room. The ship was a 196-foot-long ship called Karlsruhe. It had 360 tons of goods aboard when it sank, and the group that found it believes the Amber Room may have been one of those treasures. The East German secret police have kept a file on the Amber Room. That file has something like 180,000 pages, and still the room hasn't been found. To this day, the whereabouts of the Amber Room remain a mystery. ART News explained, the mystery surrounding its fate is to the Russians what UFOs and the Bermuda Triangle are in the West. One thing is for sure, if it were found today, it would not look anything like the room that once graced the halls of Russian palaces. Tatiana Suvorova from the Kaliningrad Regional Amber Museum explains, amber is a complex material, it is quite fragile, and it changes over time. She added that if the room were to be discovered today, this would be the greatest happiness, but it would be a fact of history, not a work of art, because such artworks made of a fragile material require very delicate handling. They require a museum environment. How can a whole room made of the most opulent amber simply disappear? How can that many crates of precious stone just go away? Were the crates loaded onto a ship that sank? Were they stripped and sent to the US? Are they still in Kaliningrad? Some believe the crates were loaded into salt mines on the Czech border, but if this is the case, where did they go? What do you think?
If you're listening on Spotify, scroll down and let me know what you think. Thanks for listening to today's episode of That's Ready Mysterious. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a review and follow That's Ready Mysterious to be updated about new episodes. Tune in next Tuesday for another thought-provoking tale.